The Minchinhampton players were due to perform the first night of my play, The Marble Staircase, at the Market House on the 2nd of April 2020. At the end of March it was cancelled because we all went into lockdown. There had been previous performances of the play in Minchinhampton in 2006. At that time this sound recording was made with most of the actors from the stage performances. The live 2006 performances were presented as a recording in a BBC studio, which we'd hoped to duplicate in 2020 with some small changes. This YouTube presentation is the 2006 recording with added visuals. Acts 1 and 2 are on separate files. The first video clip is the commercial for the 2020 version, which never saw the light of day, along with most other amateur and professional stage plays.
Der Vergangenheit lerne gilt, aus ihrer Kenntnis heraus sich die Voraussetzungen zu schaffen.
Nobody knows what Soviet Russia and its Communist International Organization intends to do in the immediate future.
Dick Button, Special Agent.
Arsenal 0, Swansea City 2, Fulham 0, Tottenham Hotspur 3, Liverpool 1, Southampton 0, Manchester City 1, Everton 1, Rangers 1.
I now realise that the house was in an idyllic spot, deep in the English countryside. But of course, being 18 years old at the time, I was deeply dissatisfied with my lot. My father's job, Anglican Archdeacon for Southern Europe, had taken our family all around the Mediterranean, and I simply loved that life as I was growing up. As a second European war seemed to be inevitable, we were repatriated to Gloucestershire, and father ran Europe from there. I can honestly say that I never cared for religion. Maybe that was why the canon, as he was referred to in the house, and I never really got on. I found many of his visiting weekend friends at best pompous, and at worst distasteful, with one notable exception.
I'm expecting Jack and a friend at the weekend, my dear. Perhaps you could ask Alice to tidy up a little in the annex. I expect both will be staying at least one night. They are both used to a little more luxury than we are, so make sure she puts a little effort into preparing the rooms.
Did you hear that, Alice? Prepare 2 of the bedrooms and make sure the canon's study is clean and tidy.
Yes, will that be a gentleman and gentleman, or a gentleman and lady?
Well, John? Gentleman or lady?
Does it matter? 2 gentlemen, Jack and a friend. Jack is bringing down a very influential young man. He says he has rather an interesting proposition to put to me.
Influential? In what way? Your meetings up in that annex always seem to result in your guests being under the influence rather than of influence. Who is this new friend?
It's one of Jack's former parliamentary assistants. This young fellow works in wireless broadcasting now. Can't say I remember him. But Jack says in his letter that we were introduced in London a couple of months back. I'm really proud of the progress Jack has made, rising in the ranks, making a name for himself in the Conservative Party. So many influential contacts. Such a difference in attitude from this sorry example of the younger generation, which is about to grace our table.
Black coffee, Alice, and for God's sake, don't bring any of that greasy cooked stuff near me.
Got some lovely jellied tongue, or brawn if you prefer cold, miss.
Are you deaf? Just coffee.
Isabel, I think you should be a little more civil. You know how difficult it is to get servants here.
If it's as difficult as getting a bit of fun in this godforsaken place, I can truly sympathise, Mother.
Really, Isabel, your behaviour is quite disgraceful. You've hardly opened your mouth this morning. You have taken the name of God in vain on 2 occasions. And I assume from your unkempt appearance you were drinking last night.
Oh, don't worry, Father dear. I haven't been touching those cases of sacramental wine you hide away upstairs. I was in the village drinking that filthy Stroud Brewery dishwater they tried to pass off as beer.
I have told you before, I do not wish you to mix with the village youth. Please remember my position. It is very unfitting for my daughter to be seen drinking with the village boys.
It's strange how your position doesn't stop you in engaging in very similar activities. Admittedly, not quite so publicly.
How dare you, you little gutter snipe? What have you been talking about in the village?
Nothing, Father. I'm just a good listener.
Alice, leave the breakfast things for now. I must help you find linen for the annex. Come along.
Whatever poisonous gossip you have heard in the public house tap room, I would urge you to think very carefully before repeating it, either here or outside this house. These village youths are inbred half-wits and should not be encouraged.
Oh, they need little encouragement, Father, and they are far from half-witted. In fact, I had a very stimulating conversation with a boy called Ben Daniels, who showed me a book he was reading. And guess what? It came from your library.
Daniels? Isn't he that servant girl's brother? She's obviously been helping herself from my bookshelf. I must have words with her.
Shall I call her in, Father? She's just upstairs changing the bed linen.
No, that won't be necessary. Perhaps on second thoughts your mother can best deal with this. The servant's situation is difficult enough, and I wouldn't wish to interfere with her domestic arrangements. Good heavens, is that the time? I have work to do. Take note of what I have said, madam. The drinking must stop, and keep away from those village boys. Do you hear? Oh, I'm in the Gloucester office this morning, Elizabeth, my dear. I'll have lunch there.
What was your father saying about the village boys, dear?
As usual, he's trying to run other people's lives while his own is in disarray. What's that parable thing about a mote in the eye and a beam in the other? You'd think he'd try to apply the rule book to himself, wouldn't you?
I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about, dear. Your father only has your best interests at heart. Goodness knows what trouble those village boys would get you into if they were allowed.
It's not just village boys, Mother dear. Any boys, whether they're wearing dinner jackets or ragged pullovers, drinking gin slings or Marden bitter. The one thing on their tiny minds is...
Quite, dear. I may seem old to you, but I still remember my young days. Little has changed in that respect. In my day, the excuse for men's beastliness was the war. What's the story these days, I wonder?
Oh, war and more war. Do you know there are a couple of the village boys talking about going out to that stupid war in Spain? You'd think that seeing their fathers and uncles being killed and maimed in the Great War would put them off, wouldn't you?
Oh, Spain is so lovely. We have wonderful memories of it. Such a horrible war and such a beautiful place. Still, nowhere deserves war, picturesque or not. These boys, they probably have no intention of going to Spain or anywhere else. Trying to impress gullible young women with brave talk, I shouldn't wonder.
Well, the prospect of a young man wishing to run off and be shot at by foreigners makes me wish to question his sanity rather than share his bed. I'm more impressed by a fast motor car and a sizable inheritance, both of which are sadly lacking in all the young males of this village.
It doesn't seem to stop you mixing with them. If you find them so tiresome, why do it? You know it upsets your father.
Oh, what else do you suggest, Mother? Cosy evenings in discussing the burning theological issues of the day?
I do wish you two could get along better.
He seems to get on better with boys.
Nonsense, dear. He loves you very much and wants only the very best for you.
I've finished making up the beds in the annex, Mum. Shall I carry on up there or finish off here first?
Oh, clear away here now, Alice, and I'll make a start in the annex. Join me when you've finished here.
Your family live in the village, don't they?
Yes, Mum.
So Ben Daniels is what? Your brother?
Yes, youngest brother.
How many brothers have you?
No others.
You said youngest.
Charlie was killed in the war.
Oh, I see.
He loved aeroplanes, did our Charlie. Got work up at Macnamara Aerodrome. He was chopped to pieces by a propeller.
God, how awful.
Awful for them as had to pick him up. He didn't know nothing about it.
Benny's talking about going to Spain to fight another war.
Oh, he do keep on about that. Why he's interested in fighting other people's wars, I couldn't say. How he reckons he's going to get all the way to Spain, I'm sure I don't know.
There's all kinds of organisations in London shipping people over there.
Oh yes, and how does he reckon he's going to get to London? He's only been to Gloucester once, and he nearly missed the bus that time.
Hitchhike, I suppose. I don't know.
No more than our Ben do. He's a dreamer, that boy. Mark my words, miss. If it do mean getting out of bed early, titch lift, he won't be going. What do the Spanish want with a young bloke who don't know one end of a gun from the other? And what's he going to do? Throw stones at the enemy? Whoever that is. Anyhow, they haven't got Stroud beer over there. It's all wine, so I hear. You seem to know him quite as well as... You finished with the coffee?
As well as who?
Well, the canon. He took a shine to our Ben.
Ah, the book.
The book?
He had a book which came from Father's collection.
More than likely. As I said, he took a shine to him.
So you didn't... I mean...
I didn't what, miss?
Oh, I thought you'd gone, Father.
Oh, I'm waiting for Trevarthen to crank the car. Mrs. Neal asked me to send you up to help in the annex as soon as you can, Alice. There's furniture to move.
Father, wasn't there something you wanted to see Alice about? The stolen book.
Oh, no, your mother can deal with it. Cut along, Alice.
Probably the most pompous of my father's friends was Captain Jack Macnamara, a Conservative MP who visited quite regularly. He always seemed to be agitated about the fecklessness of the working classes and their addiction to visiting picture houses. How I wish I could have joined them in their addiction, but the nearest cinema was over 15 miles away. The public house, however, was just a short walk into the village. The Canon and Captain Jack had recently returned from a mysterious trip to Germany, and the Captain had been invited for the weekend for discussions.
Excellent meal, Canon. I'm only sorry Burgess didn't get here in time. I offered to pick him up from Bristol, but he had some jiggery-pokery to do at the BBC studio, and they're sticklers for time there. They all seem to be fixated by the Greenwich Pips or Big Ben. I mean, does it matter a damn how long some idiot poet takes to read his dirge? Nobody wants to listen to such drivel anyway, apart from the poet himself, presumably. This broadcasting business is such a powerful tool, sadly in the hands of the charlatans.
The fact is, the younger people have taken to it. My daughter is constantly asking me to buy a receiver. She is, I'm afraid, very fond of the modern jazz dance bands.
Ah, black man's music. Seems to me that the BBC's become a home for communists and extremists. My friend Burgess is quite worried about the mores within the corporation. Quite disturbing. What a difference in Germany. You've seen with your own eyes what Adolf is doing for the country. You must have been impressed with the efficiencies and discipline he's developed. Far from decrying our German friends, I'm convinced we should be forming alliances against the greater foe.
Well, you know my feelings on the subject, I'm relieved to say. You are preaching, so to speak, to the converted. However, it is not the most favourable of times to be airing one's views in public, or even to one's colleagues. I prefer to keep my own counsel. You politicians can change your allegiances to suit the times. I have but one master. This Burgess chap, where does he stand?
You may have come across him in your travels. Seems to know everyone. Trinity man, I'm afraid. Still, you Balliol chaps are very understanding. What? Could never work out what all this Oxford-Cambridge rivalry was about. Damn glad to be away from it all.
One mellows, dear boy. You say Burgess works with poets at the BBC?
Good Lord, no, he's a journalist. Does programmes about Westminster, largely inconsequential. I took him on just after he came down from Cambridge as a personal assistant. But he blotted his copybook. Passed out drunk at a rather important political dinner I was throwing. I pushed him onto the Times newspaper, and from there he went to the BBC. Brilliant mind, apparently, but socially inept sometimes.
Oh dear. Is the village ready for such a character?
Oh, please don't worry. He's the personification of charm and wit most of the time. Just hide the single malt at bedtime. He seems to need little or no sleep and does a bit of prowling around at country weekends, so I hear. But I'm sure we can keep him under control between us.
I'm sure. Bottoms up.
Mr. Guy Francis de Montse Burgess for you, sir.
My dear fellow, what is all this de Montse business?
Well, one feels one should make an impression when approaching a clergyman's country seat.
Allow me to introduce my old friend Guy Burgess. Guy, Canon John Neal.
Canon, I do apologise for being late. Some bloody fool yokel with a cow leapt out in front of me back down the road. I've wrapped the motor around the village pump and phone box. Killed the cow, I think. Had to walk the rest of the way. Perhaps we could telephone a garage at some point and get a grease monkey to straighten things out.
My dear, dear fellow, how awful. I'll get my driver organised to have a look at the damage. He may be able to get you going, at least temporarily. One moment, I'll go and telephone.
It's about a mile back, just by the village green. There's probably still a crowd gawping at the mess now. Seem more interested in the fate of the bloody cow than my predicament.
Well, old chap, sit down, have a drink. You look as though you'd need one. I'm sure John won't mind if I help you to a chota peg.
God, yes, what a simply bloody day. I've been regaled for hours on the world according to your chap, Winston Churchill. He's a queer fish. He's got that messianic glint in his eye all the time. Had to keep stopping and starting. The recording boffins didn't like his speech impediment. He kept spitting into the microphone. I then had to drive to Bristol to report back.
Oh dear. Poor Winston. Not exactly the stuff of which great leaders are made, is he? I think he feels he's the only one marching in step in the Conservative Party. He really isn't grasping the situation.
He may be grasping it too damn well, of course. Do you think the vicar's got a gramophone hidden away anywhere? I brought away a pressing with Churchill's meanderings on. I have to make something of it for next week's programme. God, this is a pretty ugly blend. Hasn't he got a single malt somewhere?
You're damn lucky he's not a vicar, or you'd be swigging cooking sherry. This chap's of considerable importance in the church, you know. Has a vast knowledge of the Mediterranean. Based in Gibraltar and Malta, actually runs South Europe from here.
Yeah, I thought Hitler and Mussolini were trying to do that.
For the Anglicans, of course.
Ah, yes. Inside stuff on the Franco debacle, I suppose. You politicians always have some ulterior motive with your friendships.
Journalists don't, I suppose.
That is a laugh. My official title is broadcaster, not journalist. Is there anything more you wish to say on the subject, Prime Minister? Your Lordship, Your Honour, Your Excellency, Your Highness. Nation shall speak platitudes unto nation. As soon as my masters sniff a hint of controversy, they just spike the story. Balance and journalism are unhappy bedfellows, I've found. Oh, look what I've got in my briefcase here. Churchill favoured me with a bound copy of his speeches. Do you think he was making an advance? He was very attentive.
I'm not aware of his proclivities. Oh, Lord, he's even inscribed a personal message to you. You must have really impressed.
He quite seriously took me on one side and told me if I ever wanted to make contact with him in the future, all I need do would be to show this and I would be taken to him. Frankly, I thought he was being a bit too obvious.
He's a plotter, is Churchill. I would be very wary and avoid any temptation.
He even sent the recording engineer out so that we could discuss things on a more personal level, as he put it. What the old goat didn't know was that I kept the disc running. Got it all on these records here.
You crafty little blighter. Guard them with your life.
I can assure you these are the only copies, and there are no transcripts either. I think I shall report a slight technical hitch with the recordings, fire and forget them in my flat, and bin the programme.
Well, that should be settled soon. My chap Trevathan is going to turn up with a tow rope and bring your motor in. He's an excellent man. Probably have it going in no time after a bit of a tinkering. You have a drink? Good.
Burgess was wondering whether you had a gramophone in the house. He's got some homework to do.
Sadly not. My daughter continually accuses me of being old-fashioned. We have neither wireless nor gramophone, I'm afraid. Surely the BBC doesn't expect you to listen to dance music in your free time?
No, it's the spoken word which I have to listen to and make some sense of before next week. But no matter, I shall relax instead. There is to be relaxation, I take it, Canon?
John can always be relied upon to provide recreation in these beautiful surroundings. Which brings me to one of the reasons for my visit, Canon, though naturally not the only one.
Well, I have some diversions planned, but let's get what is obviously the serious matters out of the way first. What is on your mind?
No doubt you're aware of the Basque refugee situation.
Well, of course. Truly tragic. The Reds inflamed an already impossible situation. Anyone with half an eye can see that the odds are overwhelming. Naturally, the Basques appeal to the rest of the world with a hopelessness that only the Latin races can, to house their orphans and homeless.
Of whom around 5,000 children have turned up on our shores. I, for my sins, have been co-opted onto the rehousing committee.
I thought they would have been settled by now. Didn't they arrive in the summer? Some were taken in at a few Cambridge colleges, I know. That has certainly thrown the academics into something of a quandary, trying to balance their sensibilities for the rape of war orphans against the rape of their hallowed halls. Quite the most entertaining sideshow.
Well, many of them have been settled. However, there are still a number of tent villages dotted around the country. We have some very bewildered and distressed children on our hands. Now, John, you have a huge house here, and if I remember correctly, some not inconsiderable outhouses and a lodge. I think you probably know what I'm about to ask.
Take in refugees.
How many can I put you down for?
Dear me, I'm really not sure about this. The village is very insular, you know. Dusky faces and foreign accents would certainly not be welcomed. Besides, contagious disease could be very damaging to such a small community.
Spoken like a true man of God.
You may scoff, Burgess, my friend, but their lives would be made a misery. You've already seen how they treat outsiders.
Ah, yes, but I did whack their cow, village pump, and telephone box.
And if you had a black face or spoken a foreign tongue, they'd have whacked you into the bargain.
Let me put your mind at rest. All the children have been inoculated. Any diseases that were circulating have worked themselves out during the summer. Young boys, particularly, are as fit, healthy and happy specimens as any I've seen in this village. Of course, I would suggest you only take boys. I'm sure they would fit into Gloucestershire life admirably. Why, you could include them on the sailing weekends you organise for the village boys. What do you say, John, as a man of God?
Sounds too good to be true. A God-sent opportunity to do his work.
You are very persuasive, Jack. If I had to take any, it would certainly only have to be boys. I find girls so much more troublesome. Having a daughter of my own to cope with, I am very well versed with the difficult female behaviour. What numbers had you in mind?
A dozen at the most, all hand-picked. Here, I have some photographs.
Do let me see. Fine youthful specimens.
That is undeniable. Well, subject to Elizabeth's agreement and sight of the details of financial arrangements and some kind of time limit, I would consider 6, but no more. My great reservation is that they are from communist homes.
John, dear chap, this is a rapidly changing world, as you well know. Your enemy's enemy is today's friend. But given time and events, your friend's enemy could also turn out to be your friend. And these are children who one would hope eventually would return to their own country with warm feelings to the British Empire and all we hold dear.
Politics, politics. Ah, me. Let me mull over it.
My goodness, what a beautiful boy. I might just have room for that one in Chester Square.
Really, Guy, you're outrageous.
I have never been more serious in my life.
Gentlemen, to the current agenda. Up the marble staircase I have some wine, some wonderful snaps of our last sailing weekend with the village boys, and the Ma Young tiles are all laid out. Shall we?
I suppose in its time it had been a beautiful country house. A big happy family, servants at the touch of a bell, all the luxuries. That was before the war, of course. Now it had been taken over by the Stroud Council and split into 6 flats for the emergency homeless. The conversion wasn't what you call sympathetic. Our kitchen and living room had been one lofty drawing room. The council had divided it with a temporary wall running right down the middle of a beautiful Georgian window. Still, it was a great step forward for us. The tight cottage we were thrown out of had one cold water tap outside and a privy at the bottom of the garden. My boy Mike couldn't wait to get into a house with electricity. We moved in on Christmas Eve, 1950.
Hey Mum, Dad, there's electric and it works, see? That's the light for the kitchen and that's the one for the passage.
Oh, damn it, boy. Them lamps will blow if you switch them too quick.
God knows what kind of bills we're going to get from the electric company.
Can we get one of those electric radiograms to plug in instead of that old wireless?
There's nothing wrong with that wireless.
But the batteries and accumulators are always going flat, especially when Dick Barton's on.
Radiograms are for pools winners. The best thing you can do at the moment is help your father get some stuff in before it snows all over our furniture again. Go on, Bertie, get the beds in first and I can start making them up.
It's not going to be easy getting the beds up those stairs. Have you seen the staircase? It's half boxed in. Nice bit of marble, though. I bet somebody posh lived here.
Was this just one big house in the olden days, Dad? How could just one family live in all those rooms? Was it just one family, Dad?
Oh, yes. But that was before the war, though. It belongs to the council now. I reckon there must be 6 flats here. But you could tell it was a nice place. See them sash windows and wooden shutters? And look, here's the old bell to call up the butler.
What happens now if you push it?
I'll try it and see. You'll soon find out.
Oh, Bert, don't be so daft. You've made that dog bark downstairs.
Don't be soft. How could pushing a bell make a dog bark? They'll have disconnected all that years ago. Anyhow, you don't think the butler's still downstairs, do you, shining up the family silver? Come on, Mike, help us with some furniture. The driver and his mate dumped the lot in the drive and buggered off.
Well, what would you do at 7 o'clock on Christmas Eve? Oh, well, I'd better start unpacking some stuff. Let's find the kettle first. Yes, in here.
You've been ringing for the servants?
Servants? Oh, the bell, you mean?
Oh, yes, I do mean the bell. I don't know how many times I've asked the council to disconnect them wires. People will fiddle with things they're not supposed to.
It was my boy, Michael. He was only playing.
Well, you tell your boy to keep his fingers to himself. That bell box is right next to my George's bed, and he needs his sleep. He's on shift work, you know.
It won't happen again. I'll get my Bert to disconnect it. He knows about electric.
Not allowed. You read the council rules. You're not allowed to change any of the fittings. They'll want to make it into one big house again when they get rid of us.
Get rid? But we're only just moving in.
Ah, well, as soon as they build their new houses up by the common, they'll have us out of here. Not too soon for me. Place gives me the willies, especially after what happened here.
What? Here?
See that hook in the kitchen? Come through.
What? That kind of meat hook in the beam?
That's where the last tenant hung herself. My George found her. Got a bit smelly after a few weeks. Had to bash the door down.
Oh, my God. Committed suicide? Who was it?
Didn't have much to do with her. Lived on her own. Got fed up with scratching a living, I suppose. Can't say I blame her in a way.
Oh, my God.
Still, it's an ill wind, as they say. You'd be out on the streets for Christmas if it hadn't been for her and her meat hook. You moved far, then?
From Woodchester.
Hardly worth the trip, just down the valley.
We were in a tight cottage and father-in-law died. They kicked us out.
Ah, emergency homeless. Jumped the housing queue, I expect. Thought you didn't have much stuff.
Look, we've got a lot to do. Perhaps we can have a chat some other time.
Only the one boy, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Well, tell him he can come down and play with our Kevin and Marjorie any time. Just knock on the door. Number 2, the old servants' quarters. He won't find much of a welcome from the village kids. There aren't many of them, and the village don't take to the likes of us. Our Kevin has come home with lumps out of him every now and then. And tell him to keep his sticky fingers off that bell, all right? Oh, blast you, boy. Can't you be more careful?
Mum! Somebody's dog run off with the joint of pork we had for Christmas dinner. Hey, who was that?
What did you say?
Who was that miserable old woman?
A neighbour. I meant about the dog and the meat.
The lorry driver left all our stuff on the drive and somebody's dog chewed up our Christmas joint.
Oh, Christ.
Merry bloody Christmas. This is what's left of the joint of pork. A bit of bone and gristle.
Oh, well, I didn't have much of a clue how to work the electric cooker. It would probably have spoiled anyway. Why are the lights flickering, Bert? So much for your wonderful electricity, young man. Won't cook anything if this keeps happening.
Well, it's snowing quite hard now. There's probably a cable shorting somewhere in the village. Look, there's a tin of ham in these boxes somewhere, and there's still the Christmas pudding.
Do you think Father Christmas will find us here?
Oh, Father Christmas. Mike, do your friends at school talk about Father Christmas?
Well, yeah.
And does he come to them?
They get presents, yeah.
That's not what I asked.
Most of them don't have Father Christmas.
So, they don't believe in him. How many?
All of them.
So you know?
Everybody knows it's their mums and dads.
Well, how long have you known?
Last year.
Oh.
And the year before.
Well, why didn't you say something?
I didn't want to spoil the fun for you.
Fun? All that stumbling around in the dark and waiting up all hours until you were asleep? Well, to answer your question, son, no. Father Christmas will not be able to find us because there's no such person.
Oh.
But we've got your presents hidden away. Somewhere in this lot.
Hey, can I still have a stocking?
What? A grown-up lad like you?
Hang your stocking up downstairs. I'm not sure I'd find my way around here in the dark.
If we don't get on, we won't be having Christmas till next Easter. Get on with the bed, you two. Cooey! Oh, no, not again. Has Mike been ringing that bell again? I'll give him a good hiding when I catch him. Has he woken your husband up?
No, I come up to say sorry about Paddy.
If you say so. Who is Paddy?
The dog. Paddy, he stole your joint. Not much left, I'm afraid, but I managed to get it off him. I cut the worst off.
Oh, it was your dog, was it? I think you better let him finish it. We've a tin of ham.
George had a spare rabbit in the coal house. Would that be any use? I got it in this carrier bag. You'll have to skin and gut it, but it's quite fresh.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. Bert'll deal with it.
Well, I couldn't see you going without at Christmas.
Very thoughtful, I'm sure.
Not all the people in the flats are as thoughtful as me. They'd let you starve.
Very nice.
Don't forget to send young Michael down to play with our Kevin and Marjorie.
Thanks. Oh, more boxes. Thanks, Mike. Put that one down there and see if the teapot's in it.
Oh, what's that?
Christmas dinner. It's a rabbit.
It's dead.
So was the pork.
It did look like an animal, though.
What's that?
Christmas dinner.
Well, it'll have to be skinned and gutted before it goes in the pot.
Don't look at me, you two. I'm not touching it. Mike, forget the teapot. Look for that tin of ham. I'm sure it's in that box. We got settled in eventually. We had a Christmas dinner of sorts, and Mike got invited down to play with Kev and Marjorie's presents. After the initial upheaval of moving, we were starting to get used to living in a drafty big old house instead of a drafty small old house. It was quite a new experience to have close neighbours, even though Vera did seem to want to know everybody's business, including ours. Bert's answer to our life of making do was to fill in the weekly football coupon and hope.
West Bromwich Albion 1, Arsenal 0. Chelsea 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2.
That's one of mine.
Liverpool 0, Birmingham City 2. Leeds United 3, Preston North End 0. Norwich City 2, Coventry City 2.
And another.
Hey, Dad, can I...
Quiet! The results.
Aston Villa.
Now look what you've done. I've got 2 draws already. We may have come up.
Not me, Dad. The accumulator's flat. It was going during Dick Barton.
See, it was you, wasting wireless power on special agent nonsense. Well, what was it you wanted anyway?
Can Kev and Marge come up to play?
Have they had their tea?
Don't expect so.
Well, make sure they go home before our tea time. I'm up helping your mother distemper out the bathroom. It's your friends.
Hiya, Mike. Hiya, Kev. Oh, I see you brought Marge. Dad says you can't stay for tea.
I don't care. We got boiled eggs and tin fruit cocktail tonight.
Oh.
And evaporated milk.
What do you reckon to these photos, Mike? Oh, pictures of ships and stuff. Just people on a sailing ship. Old-fashioned too. What use is that?
Not much. Might be something else where they came from, though.
Where?
You know, the big staircase.
Yeah?
In there.
And where?
Where it's boarded up. He put his hand in a hole and found stuff.
This is all I could get hold of.
I reckon it's stealing. Don't tell your mum and dad.
Tell what?
That Kev's been stealing.
It isn't anybody's. It's been left.
Is there anything else?
I bet. I could see a big box and a leather briefcase through the hole.
This wireless don't work.
The accumulator's gone. Here, what kind of a box?
With stuff in. I can feel things.
We got an electric wireless. It don't run down. Hey, the boys in these photos are bare.
I know. And the grown-ups. You can see their hairs.
Hairs? Where?
Oh. What have you got for tea then?
Oh, sardines on toast.
Ugh, I hate sardines. Too fishy.
I want to see in that box and get hold of that leather briefcase. Can you help make a bigger hole?
Yeah, Dad's got a hammer and a chisel somewhere in the coal house, I think. Come on.
Now, why ain't this wireless working? Come on, come on.
Oh, hello, Marge. What are you doing here?
Come up with Kev. He's gone off with Mike to find a chisel.
A chisel? What for?
What you got for tea?
Oh, I don't know. Bread and jam, I suppose.
Mike said it was sardines.
What do they want a chisel for?
Too fishy anyway. We got boiled eggs, tin fruit cocktail and evaporated milk.
Marjorie, why do they want a chisel?
Couldn't say. Our Kev's always up to something.
What's this? Your family snaps?
No, it's what Kev found.
Is it indeed? And where exactly did he find them?
Couldn't say. You sure you're not having sardines?
Listen to me, Marjorie. Some of these photos are quite disgusting. Not for children. I think you'd better leave them with me. I'll talk to your mother about this.
They're Kev's. He'll want them back.
I can assure you he'll not be getting them back. He could be in serious trouble.
He hasn't done nothing. They was found.
We'll see about that. You'd better get home for tea.
I bet you got sardines and you didn't want to say.
Tell your mum and dad we'll be down tomorrow morning to see about this.
I've got the box. It's a bit heavy. You bring the briefcase.
Come on, Kev. Tea time.
Ah, so, young man, what have we got here? What's in the box? Why has Kevin run off with that briefcase? What have you been up to, my boy?
was a normal Saturday night. I'd been drinking with my friends at the local until quite late. The boys had an arrangement with the landlord, and the landlord had an arrangement with the village policeman. I decided to take a small nightcap from the Canon's drinks cabinet, and found someone had got to the single malt before me. A very striking young man, in his middle 20s perhaps, sat dozing in an armchair, grasping an empty tumbler. Official-looking papers covered his lap, and a number of gramophone records in paper sleeves spilled out of an open black Gladstone bag on the floor. I took a look at some of the papers while he slept, and was quite surprised by what I read. I tried to be quiet, but clumsily kicked his chair as I leaned over him to retrieve the whisky bottle.
Oh, hello. Who are you?
Hang on, I'll put the light on. I live here, actually. The name's Isabel.
Ah, the dreadful daughter. I've been hearing a lot about you from your father.
Oh, you're not an intruder. That's a relief. I'd have had to hit you with the poker or something equally ghastly. You're the influential house guest, of course. With the BBC, aren't you?
Yes to the BBC. Not quite sure about the definition of influential, though. I'm Guy, by the way. Guy Burgess.
What's he been saying about me?
What, the vicar? Oh, nothing too damning. Apparently you like to drink in questionable company. Frankly, I see not much wrong with that. I do it all the time myself.
You'd do it even more if you lived here.
It is a little feudal, isn't it? I think I ruined one of the few village amenities with my motor this evening. It was getting positively ugly towards the end with some of the local Neanderthals. To be frank, I think they were more worried about the plight of a cow I grazed than the loss of washing water from the village pump.
God, that was you, was it? There was a real council of war in the public house tonight about that. There was some brave talk of a lynching, but I think the beer rendered them incapable well before closing time.
Oh, I do apologise. These are your drinking companions, I assume.
Well, not exactly. This all went on in the public bar. I tend to mix with a more thoughtful set in the snug.
Wonderful. The British class system to the rescue again. Will you join me? I can be thoughtful at times.
This was the original purpose of my furtive visit.
Are you down from college?
Good Lord, no. No, just drifting, really. My education wasn't up to much. I kept shifting around with Father's job. But of course you'll know all about that, won't you?
No, why should I?
Not read your crib sheet, then?
Ah, my papers.
It says here, daughter aged 20. They got that wrong for a start. School in Malta, Naples. Not bad. No known long-term associates outside family. Sad but true. No political affiliations, probably aligns with father. D- for that one. Is this how you approach all your social intercourse? With potted biographies? Helps with those dreadful little lulls in conversation, I suppose.
Look, you don't understand.
Too damned right I don't understand. I wouldn't begin to even read aloud the scurrilous stuff on Jack and my father.
It's a habit of mine. Being a journalist, I always prepare my ground before meeting people.
My God, you're not going to put this on the wireless, are you? It would absolutely ruin Jack and my father.
I can assure you this is all personal and very confidential. Call it insecurity if you like. I don't ever like to be caught at a disadvantage, in business or pleasure. Anyway, it's never a clever idea reading other people's private papers. Reading about oneself, I find, is rarely instructive and invariably destructive.
Well, the picture painted of me isn't wildly interesting, is it? I suppose the next sentence should read, seeking a country curate with substantial private income.
And would that be an accurate reflection of the situation?
Couldn't be further from the truth. Give me the bottle. Perhaps I'll find something useful to do in this war half the country's getting ready for.
Ah, yes, you against the marauding Hun. I can see it now.
I'm not entirely worthless, I'll have you know. I speak Italian and Spanish moderately well. Perhaps I could be a spy or something.
I don't think intelligence work is quite as glamorous as it's portrayed.
I was thinking more of beguiling foreign diplomats with my charm and wit, but all the while extracting wonderful secrets like, oh, I don't know, Plans for a death ray or the formula for a secret cocktail known only to Mussolini's barman.
I think you can forget Matahari too.
Oh, what a bore! In that case, I shall have to find a rich young aristocrat to keep me. You do politics, don't you?
That actually is my job, yes. I produce talks on political matters. It's dreadfully tedious most of the time. Some of the time servers I have to work with, well, my dear, it really is the entertainment department of the civil service, only possibly not quite so entertaining. Why do you ask?
A friend of mine in the village is awfully set on joining the International Brigade. Would you say that was a good move on his part? I listen to Father and Jack from time to time, read the odd newspaper, but the more I hear, the more I am confused. Do you have a view?
I have a view, but I'm never quite given the opportunity to air it. Suffice it to say, I have a very close friend reporting in Spain at the moment. The whole thing is literally perfectly bloody. Your friend stands a very good chance of being bombed to hell by the Germans or the Italians or Spanish or all three. If he feels the need to support the cause, he should go. But he must want to do it for the right reason, not just to get away from village boredom. He will find excitement he didn't bargain for.
Are you a spy?
I beg your pardon?
Who's Komolowski?
You really shouldn't be reading that.
You shouldn't fall asleep while writing important notes. Why are you reporting on your meeting with Father and Jack to Komolowski? That's hardly research to maintain polite conversation.
I always write notes on meetings. I keep a diary. In my position, I meet some important and influential people. I may write my memoirs someday. It would be a kind of pension.
So who's Komolowski? Your publisher?
In a manner of speaking.
You know, I really think you are a spy. I say, how thrilling!
Give me those papers, you tiresome girl.
So who is it you're spying for? The Nazis? The Reds? Komolowski sounds like a Red to me.
Give me those papers. Damn you to hell.
I think I'll call Jack. He might be interested in this.
No, please, don't do that. If you do that, it will ruin not only me, but a number of my very good friends. It will spoil everything. He will crucify me.
This really is important to you, isn't it?
Look, you're a sensible girl. Let me have the papers back, and I promise I'll tell you what this is all about. But you must swear on your life not to repeat it to anyone, ever.
Why should I promise? If you are what I think you are, perhaps people like Jack should know.
Believe me, if it were up to Jack and his friends, you would be a member of the British National Socialist Movement and sporting a swastika armband, if you were allowed to live, and with your Mediterranean complexion you could well be in some cosy concentration camp somewhere.
So the Reds have it then.
Give me the papers and sit down.
Excuse me, miss. I see the light on. Only there's a constable at the door. Wants to talk to the canon. Can I bring him up to you? I said the Reverend was asleep.
Alice, keep him talking for half a minute and then bring him up.
Yes, miss.
Look, let's clear up all your papers and things. Sit tight and I'll speak to him. Put all this stuff back in your briefcase.
The constable, miss.
Thank you, Alice. Now go back to bed. I'll deal with this.
I'm so sorry to trouble you, miss. I did want to speak to the canon, but you may be able to help. Nothing to worry about, miss.
I'll do what I can. Oh, this is Mr. Burgess, our guest for the weekend.
Well, you may be just the person I want to speak to, Mr. Burgess. Around about 8 tonight, there was a motor accident in the village. Those present said the driver made off in the direction of this house, saying he'd be back. And bless my soul, the description I have could be the spitting image of yourself. And what do I see when I get to the canon's driveway? Why, a motor car with a bent bonnet.
Well, I'm not sure that...
Fair cop, officer. Yes, it was my motor. I was a little dazed, that's all, and not thinking. I walked the rest of the way here. I understand the canon sent his man along to attend to everything. Was he not able to straighten things out?
Well, not exactly, sir. It's the small matter of the damage to the telephone box and the cow that I'm concerned with. Now the telephone box is easily dealt with. If you just give me your address, sir, the GPO will contact you directly to discuss the compensation for the broken glass and so on.
Ah, certainly. It's Chester Square, London, Southwest 1.
Right, London... London...
Southwest 1.
Right you are, sir. Now, the cow is another matter. The beast had to be put down, so the farmer's to be dealt with.
Do you think a fiver would pay for the inconvenience?
Well, I'm not too sure, sir.
And another fiver for the vet, perhaps?
Well, that is more than generous, sir. And I'll arrange for the canon to get a prime cut from the butchery of the beast.
Well, make sure you do. Good chap and very good work. Thank heavens there are men like you around in these troubled times. I'm most grateful to you, officer.
Not at all, sir. I hope the motor car can be patched up for your return journey. And when was it you were going back to London? If you don't mind me asking, sir. It's in case we need any more information.
Monday. Early, mind you.
Right you are, sir. Good night. Good night, miss.
I'll see you out, officer.
Oh my good God. What a bloody mess. And what the hell have I said to that girl? Now keep calm, Burgess, old fellow. She's as drunk as I am. She won't remember a thing in the morning. My God, my God. How could I be so stupid?
You're a little condescending, I thought. He's not as stupid as he looks, you know. He could come back at you for attempting to bribe an officer of the law.
Everyone has his price. And forgive me, but I think he's every bit as stupid as he looks. But you, well...
If that's supposed to be a backhanded compliment, forget it. You'd better tell me what you're up to, Guy Burgess, or I'll be up those stairs to Uncle Jack before you can say USSR.
Sit down. This is to be a secret between you and me. If you break my trust, I will eventually get to know, and the consequences will be beyond your wildest imaginings. This is a very serious matter, and I need your solemn word.
All right, I promise. But you really must tell me why a well-brought-up, privileged boy like Guy Francis de Moncey Burgess wants to take the hand that feeds him and bite it quite off.
Good morning, sir. Slept well, I trust. What can I help you to? Porridge, scrambled eggs, kidney, kipper?
Just coffee and toast, if you don't mind. Am I the first or last down?
The Canon, Mrs. Neal, and the Captain have gone to church, sir. The Canon's taking the service in the village this morning.
Ah, yes, I should have realised. And Miss Neal?
No signs yet, sir.
Yes, we were a little late last night.
Really, sir?
The Canon's man was attending to my motor. Have you seen him this morning?
He's been going up and down the drive in a rather battered green Morris Oxford. Would that be yours, sir?
Ah, splendid. He's got it going.
It would seem so, sir. Oh, good morning, miss. Coffee, miss?
Yes, please, Alice, and some toast. That'll be all, Alice, thank you.
I need to clear away as soon as you finish, miss.
Alice, that will be all.
Perhaps you'll ring when I can clear away then, miss.
I'll be sure to, thank you. I've been awake half the night thinking about what you said. You know, about changing things. My head is just buzzing. What's troubling me is, if you've got this burning desire, this wish to cleanse society, why on earth are you mixed up with people like Father and Jack? I find their hypocrisy just so distasteful.
Do we have to over breakfast? Oh, very well. It's quite straightforward. The rot is at the top of society, and it permeates down. Our movement is changing things from the lower orders upwards. Look at this place, for example. 3 of you rattling around in enough space for 30. Not to mention the vast grounds and other buildings. Wealth must be more fairly distributed as a matter of urgency.
So how would that work with this house then?
Quite simply modify it to house not only you but several other families, and failing that, knock it down completely and build sensibly sized, comfortable apartments. You could rehouse hundreds of slummed families in the space you have around you.
I see. In the meantime, you enjoy the comforts provided by those who have the wealth.
One has to be completely familiar with the mechanism of this top-heavy system before it's possible to dismantle it safely.
I have known my father and Jack for all of my 18 years. I find this grubby secret life of theirs so bogus. And you subscribe to that as well as accepting all that their wealth has to offer. This is surely nothing to do with a better order of things.
I have been made the way I am. It isn't an illness or a condition of the mind, however much one hears to the contrary. I was born with it. I didn't acquire it, and it happens that this condition has become intertwined with my political activities. I concede the fact that certain people are drawn together by these common influences, and that may be distasteful to you. I use this to my advantage, and I hope to the advancement of my cause.
Are your beliefs not tainted by mixing with such people?
It allows me to observe lives that would otherwise be closed off to me. It's a kind of sacrifice.
A sacrifice which you revel in, seemingly. A contradiction, wouldn't you say?
Not if you have an ultimate goal in mind, no.
And this Komolowski tells you how to go about things. Your mentor.
He advises me. Now, I'm a free agent.
Oh, really? Just as long as you do as he says?
You don't seem to understand.
I think I'm beginning to understand quite well, thank you. I said I'd ring when we were ready, Alice.
I'm sorry, but there's another policeman to see Mr. Burgess, miss.
Ah, they've discovered a further expense in disposing of the dead cow, I have no doubt. I'll see him here if it's all right with you, Isabel.
Of course. Show me in, would you?
Detective Constable Sibley, miss.
Good morning, miss. Sir, I apologise for the interruption. I need to talk with Mr. Burgess, if I may. Alone, that is.
That's perfectly all right. Sibley, is it? Miss Neal is quite aware of the situation. I'm afraid if I keep getting visits from your station, I shall run out of ready funds. Still, I suppose the higher the rank, the more likely they will be to accept payment by cheque.
I'm not quite following you, sir.
I assume there has been further costly developments.
Well, yes, sir. I've travelled down overnight from London. The local man contacted us to confirm you were here.
Every bit as stupid as he looks, eh, de Moncey?
I must say that does seem a little excessive. Don't tell me the Postmaster General has taken my little accident with his telephone box personally.
I'm sure I don't know, sir. You are Guy Francis de Moncey Burgess, are you not?
Of course.
We've been trying to track you down for a few days, sir.
A few days? I don't understand. I only hit the bloody cow last night.
I know nothing about a cow, sir. This concerns an alleged incident in a public convenience in Sloane Square, London, last week. I won't go into the details in front of the young lady. Suffice it to say you've been identified as the party involved with a criminal offence committed in a public place. I must ask you to accompany me back to London, sir. I have the necessary papers.
This is some sort of obscene mistake. Let me talk to your superior officer at Scotland Yard. I'll phone at once. What's his name?
Johnson, sir. Inspector Johnson. And we're from West End Central, not Scotland Yard. He's waiting in the car downstairs. I'm afraid this has come from my superiors.
I just do not know what you people can be thinking about. Are you quite sure about this? What are these papers?
See for yourself, sir. It's a warrant.
This is monstrous. Why would I be in a public convenience in Sloane Square when I live just around the corner in Chester Square?
Why, indeed, sir.
Look here, I don't want you to embarrass my hosts.
If you accompany me, sir, as I suggested, I will be as discreet as possible.
So, I am not left with any alternative but to do as you say. Believe me, when this whole sorry mess is resolved, you may well be looking for another position. That will take the smirk off your face.
I'm sure it will, sir.
Surly into the bargain. It may interest you to know that I'm very well acquainted with the Metropolitan Commissioner.
I'm sure you have many friends, sir. Nevertheless, I have to insist.
I will have to get my things and make my excuses. Wait in the car and I will join you in a few moments.
Oh, I'm not sure, sir. My orders...
Oh, come on, Constable. Do I look the type to leg it across miles of ploughed fields and hide in a barn? I want this cleared up quickly. I just need to get my bags and thank my hosts.
Please, officer, I guarantee Mr. Burgess will be down in a very few moments. We just need to say goodbye.
Oh, I see. Very well, 5 minutes. And if there's any problem, you, young lady, will also be in serious trouble.
That was very sporting of you. The devoted companion act was particularly clever. It won't have gone unnoticed by the flatfoot. I really think you could be a spy. Thinking on your feet. Excellent.
So glad to be of assistance. Guy, this isn't true, is it?
What, the lavatory thing? The very idea. Some layabout has got my name from somewhere, no doubt hoping to extract a handsome payoff to keep quiet, and it's gone a bit further than he bargained for. I'm afraid, my dear girl, while people like me are branded as criminals merely as a result of an accident of birth, we are open to all kinds of chicanery.
Oh, I just don't know what to think.
I need you to do me one last favour.
I'm sure I'll wake up in a moment. What now?
My briefcase. If I take it with me, they are bound to give it the once-over, and both you and I know that the contents are not for prying eyes. Can you please look after it for me? I will pick it up. I might be back around this way sometime. It's locked. I have 2 keys. You keep one.
You might be back.
I'm often in Bristol on BBC business. We could meet.
If you happen to be around.
Well, yes. The bag, please. Look, Jack and the Canon will be back soon. I don't want to involve them. Just make my excuses and please look after the bag.
I'll take care of it.
You are a sweetie. I must go, or they will be arresting you too.
And that would never do, would it, Mr. Burgess?